Okay, so in task 2, it talks about creating this game for a number of classes. It might not be something that you've thought about at this moment in time. For the ones that have thought about it already for task 1, it should be evident in your planning, i.e. in the variables that you've come up with for task 1. So you need to make sure that your algorithm, your flowchart, your pseudocode, and your variables that you've defined in your Word document have got class name, because this is task 1. However, it's okay if you don't, because we can add it when we do our variables list for task 2. But if at the point that you get on to thinking about class name, I want you to think about how you're going to validate it. So for example, I can easily get an input for class name. Okay, so let's call it class something. The word class is reserved by Python, so you can't have the variable class. So either call it class name with a capital letter or underscore name, or classes something. Okay, so class name equals input. Please enter a class name. Okie dokies. Now remember, I could have also done my input as print please enter a class name, and then done my class name equals input. Okay, both of these do exactly the same thing. I either use one line of code and I'm writing my input question within my input, or I write the question and then get the input afterwards. It doesn't matter which way you do it. The only difference is the user enters their answer on the next line when it's executed. On the second one, I'll run it and show you. So the first one runs, please enter class name. There's no space, which isn't very good, and I write my name. The second one runs and asks me, and I put my name in underneath. Okay, so they both do the same thing. So let's get rid of one of them, but you should be thinking about the one that you want to use, okay? And using it appropriately. I ain't bothered, I just want you to all use different things, okay? Alright, so I've chosen this one. Class names equals input, please enter a class name. I run it, put a class name in. In your head, you've got maths x1, maths x2, maths x3. And I write hello. It allows it. Okay, well, we're not validating. The least we should be doing is checking that they are only inputting one of those class names that we think is appropriate. Okay, and if it isn't, we should not let them carry on, because now if I've written hello, I aren't able to actually put myself into a class when we start saving this as a file, because there isn't a class called hello. Alright, so we can use an if statement to do a bit of validation for us. So for example, here we have, I'm going to change this because I'm not going to do this for you. So I'm going to have a variable called friends, and in there I'm going to say please enter your name. So I don't have many friends, as you probably are aware, and I know my friends, so I need to do an if statement. I've only got a couple. So if friends variable, what's going to be storing what they input, equals Amy, then I'm going to send a nice message, print hey Amy. Oh no, I'll just do hey, you're my friend. I'll do another else if, because would you believe it, I have got more than one friend. Elif, friends equals, let's think, Becky. Oops. If friends equals Becky, mistake here, not spelled the variable right, then I'm going to print the same message. else I'm going to print you are not my friend. Okay, so I'm checking to see if Amy's been entered by the user or if Becky's been entered by the user. No, I'm using different uppercase and lowercase here. That's not very good. If they don't enter Amy or Becky, then it's going to bring back an error message that says, hey, you are not my friend. Okay, now it's interesting that we've just mentioned uppercase and lowercase. I'm not enforcing the user to enter in an uppercase. I should be able to convert what they enter into an uppercase first letter, and we know how to do that, don't we? Now, the reason why that's useful is because it's now been stored with the first letter capital. So I can then check with using uppercase letter at the beginning, a capital as well, because they might enter it as lowercase. And if I don't put this, then they might enter it as lowercase, but I might check it as uppercase. And so it wouldn't be right even if my friend Amy entered it, because if she wrote Amy in lowercase and I was checking against an uppercase A, then it wouldn't acknowledge that that person was actually my friend, because it's actually checking to me, it's looking for the word Amy but with an uppercase A. So by adding this dot title, you are converting what they enter into an uppercase first letter, and then you can check against an uppercase first letter so that you don't have to do checks on a lowercase a and an uppercase a. Okay, so now if I enter anything other than Amy or Becky, it should bring back this message here, hey, you are not my friend. So if friends equals Amy, great, you are my friend. Friends equals Becky, great, you are my friend. If you're not Amy or Becky, it's going to bring back, hey, you are not my friend. Okay, let's run that. I can do it in lowercase, it's going to convert to capital A. Hey, you are my friend. Good. F5. Try it again with Becky. Oh. Let's run that again. Ah. I hadn't spelt my variable correctly. Oh. Now that's naughty of me. That's because I didn't spell my actual declaration of my variable correctly. Right, we've all got the same variable names now, so let's have a go. Great. It works. F5. Let's try Amy. So for both of them, Becky, you are my friend. Amy, you are my friend. Let's try it one more time and not enter either of those names. Let's enter Jimmy. Hey, you are not my friend. Great, it works. Finally. So I've used an if statement to get it to work. I'm going to show you another way of how we can do it. Now we can use lists. Okay, now we use lists when we were doing App Inventor. So I'm going to create another variable. I'm going to spell it correctly. I'm going to do the same thing. Friends equals input title. Now to do a list, I need to do another variable that's going to store the list, because at this moment in time, I'm just getting the input and putting that input into a variable. So I'm going to have another list. I'm just going to call it F because I'm lazy. And I'm going to create my list of friends. So, Amy. I'll do it capital because I've set it to dot title. So, Amy, comma, to separate. That's the first item in the list. Second item in the list, Becky. Close my list. I've got 2 items in my list. Okay, now the position of these in the list is different to an App Inventor. The position of Amy is 0 and the position of Becky is 1. lists in Python start at 0, the index position. Okay, so whereas in App Inventor, the index position started at 1. In fact, we could have probably set it to 0, but in Python, the first item in the list is index position 0. Second item in the list is index position 1. So I've got 2 items in my list. Okay, I'm going to do an if statement again now. So if friends, what's been entered, equals, now I want to start with Amy. Now Amy is index position 0. So I do the name of the variable, which is f, that's storing this list, and its index position is 0. Which means if friends equals f, which is storing Amy at that position, then say print out, hey, you're my friend. I'm just going to nick this up here, be lazy. Else if friends equals f, what's storing the list, index position 1, then print hey, you are my friend. Else print hey, you are not my friend. So here I've created the same variable to store the input from the user. I've created another variable to store the list items. And then I'm checking what the user's entered to see if it's the same, if it equals the list, which I've called f, and its position, which is 0, which is Amy. If it does equal Amy, I'm going to say, hey, you're my friend. Else, if the same list, but this time equals 1, index position 1, which is Becky, then it's going to say, hey, you're my friend. Else it's going to say, you're not my friend. Let's me just comment this top line out and just use this one here. Let's see if it works. F5. Please enter your name, Amy. Hey, you're my friend. It's working. Try again. Becky. Hey, you're my friend. Let's try it one more time. Oh, Billy. Hey, you are not my friend. So here what we've done is, I'll uncomment this one. We've worked out how we can use if statements to validate. We can just use if statements against specific entries that we put in, or we can create a list for our entries, store them in a variable, and then see if the variable that's storing what the user entered as their name or their class against what's stored in the list at the different index positions. Okay. We could think to ourselves that the user might type it wrong by accident the first time. And if they enter it wrong, we don't really want them then to not be able to continue. We all make error mistakes when we're typing. So if we want, we can add a little bit more validation to this. And I can use maybe a while loop that's going to check and let them have 2 attempts. And if they still don't get it right after the second attempt, then it breaks and it stops them from continuing. Okay, so to do that, I need something that I can use to add up. So I'm going to create a variable called attempts. And at the moment, I'm going to set it to 1, because you should have realised with question variable that if you set it to 0, the first question that appears is 0. The second question that zeros is then question 1. So really, questions should be equaling 1, not 0. But you need to do that in your testing to see if that works or not. So I know that really attempt should start at attempt 1, because it's going to do attempt 1, it's going to do this. The next time it does it, it's going to be attempt 2. So I've got a variable that I've just stored the number 1 in at this moment in time. Then I'm going to do a while loop. So while that variable attempts, which is currently storing the number 1, is less than 3, which means you can do it once, you can do it twice, but you can't do it anymore. because then it'll be 3. And we're saying if attempts is less than 3. Okay, then I want it to run this loop. So I need to then indent my if statement now within this while loop. Okay, so while attempts is less than 3, then I'm going to run through this. This is the first attempt. Okay, let me just minimize that. So if this happens, then it's going to do this. So if the person is Amy, then I'm going to do attempts equals attempts plus 1. In fact, I'm going to take those out and just put it under the else, because if they do enter it right, then it shouldn't add. We don't want it to run it again. Only if they get it wrong do we want to add attempts on. So maybe here, if they do get it right, equals 2. And if they get that right, then attempts automatically equals 2. But if they get it wrong, attempts should equal 1. And then it should do it again. And let them have another go. If they get it right first time, then attempts should equal 2. So they don't get asked again. If they get it wrong though, they should get asked again, so attempts should only equal 1. Still less than 3, so it should run through again. Let's see if that works. Hey, you're my friend. Please enter your name. Let's see if we put print here. Sorry, incorrect name. Still asking for it multiple times. Let's not add anything on and just see if we just do it on the else. Yeah. Hey, you're my friend. Okay, got that to work. If we don't enter Amy or Becky, then it asks once, twice, 3 times. Which is interesting. Do we need to do it to 2? Okay, so we might need to play around with these indents. But with the really more able students, we're almost there. You need to start. We need to decide and determine where these indentations go for this. If we want them to have a go, and if they get it wrong, So attempts equals 1, it runs through. Attempts equals 2. So it works if they're not Amy or Becky. Gives them 2 attempts and then throws it out. But if we enter the correct name, it says you are not my friend. Please enter your name. You are not my friend. Interesting. So this definitely has to be within this. I'm trying to change these to 3. Nope. Because it's not adding 1 on every time. But attempts equals 3. Maybe attempts needs to go before we do the print, because obviously the print works first. Oh, at least it's asking it twice. So it works if they're not the friends. It's currently still asking them. Twice. Why don't we just do +2? Nope. Okay, I am going to leave this for you to try and resolve. But what we've done, goodness me, is we've worked out how to enter specific text to check against in the if statement. And if we want to do it slightly differently, we've worked out how we can add an if a list to store the different values and then pull out the items in the list by their index position to do the checking in the if statement. To go one step further and allow a certain amount of attempts, assuming that a user might make an error mistake when typing, we could use a while loop or indeed the for in range, which might be more appropriate actually because it has a least value and a max value. That might be the most appropriate. But you can see how we can add a level of validation and then we can try and add a level more considering that the user might make a mistake. So you should all be attempting to be doing some checking on what is entered, particularly for class name.